Oh, you got in. Oh, people are getting in. That's good.
Did you have trouble getting in? Because I did. I don't know.
Yeah, it took me a little while. I actually closed it out and reopened it just to make sure there wasn't something else going on, but
Oh,
it wasn't easy.
technology.
Yep. Wouldn't be a typical day without a little bit of a technology issue. And I think we'll give it a second for those who can hear me. I think a few folks might have had some problems getting in, so we'll give it another second before we get started. Okay, I have 2 minutes after, so we will go ahead and kick it off. Look, I just want to thank everyone again for making the time today. This is really kind of our first official meeting in our committee assignments. And, you know, the opening comments here will be very brief because there's not a whole lot to share. But I wanted to kind of, you know, give you all as a group an update on kind of where we're at with things in terms of how we did the committees. And then I'll hand it over to Tish to kind of do the administrative ceremonies of getting people broken out into their groups. So, first thing I would say is thank you for getting your name submitted and signed up for a committee. We worked really hard to try to get everyone aligned to a committee that they raised their hand for, that they felt some passion around. So hopefully was able to meet that mark. It's hard to do these things perfectly, but I think we got pretty close. So I appreciate you all's patience around that. And I think hopefully you all saw the list of all the committees. I won't go through all the committees. We talked about those 6 committees in our last meeting together. But and my guess is if your committee lead hasn't reached out to you yet, they might have already reached out to you, but you'll certainly be meeting them here in the next few minutes once we get into our breakout meeting. So I think we're in good shape there. Thanks for getting signed up. And you know, that group will be the group you'll be working closely with over the next several weeks as we kind of get to the finish line here, which is going to be June the 1st. So that's number one. Number two, you all should have in your calendars, and if you haven't, please let you know, Andrea know, myself, Rebecca, someone know if you don't have it in your calendars. But you should have a meeting. What we try to do is, you know, have these meetings every other week for an hour and a half on Mondays from 3 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern time for March the 22nd, April the 5th, April the 19th, May the 3rd, May the 17th, and then our final readout being June the 1st. So 6 meetings. So, you know, obviously we're rushing to get to the finish line here, but we wanted to make sure that we had enough time for us to and these meetings, by the way, will serve 2 purposes. One, we will spend, you know, a few minutes, between 15 to 30 minutes in these hour and a half meetings for us to kind of come together collectively to talk about, you know, any kind of general broad updates for the entire Louisville Downtown Revitalization Team, but also to get updates and readouts from the committee leaders so that we all know what the other committees are working on, things that they're, you know, having some successes with, things that they're challenged by, things of that nature. So we're all kind of staying in the loop, so you don't kind of hear it all at the very end. So that's going to serve, you know, one kind of purpose. The other purpose is this is kind of an intentional way of getting all the committees scheduled and everyone kind of locking arms to kind of get across the finish line. So this will serve as at least maximum a 30-minute kind of broader update, and then at least an hour going into those breakout sessions with your committees. And your committee leaders might want to do a little bit something extra above and beyond that, but at a minimum, we have this in everybody's calendar. So that should be in your, if you don't have it, let us know. so we can get that in your calendar, but that should be in your calendars now. The other piece I would say too is, and we're still working through this, we want to make sure, and I think most of you all, if not all of you, were a part of the racial equity training that we went through on Thursday. We wanted to make sure that everyone went through that so we can kind of anchor ourselves into proper thinking to make sure that every single committee and the work that we produce at the end of June, we're looking at this through a racial equity lens, from an inclusion lens. So we wanted to make sure that you all went through that, one, but two, we want to make sure we have at least one person from each committee that's going to hold the committee accountable to ensuring that the final product, where we're using that toolkit and we're looking at things through a racial equity lens. So we're still working through that. We're almost done with that. So the list that's out there is not a finished product, but we're going to hopefully have that wrapped up here in the coming days so that we have at least one representative from each committee that's going to ensure that that work is happening, that racial toolkit is being used, and the final product is a product where we're looking at things also through a racial equity perspective and lens. So more to come around that, but that's just one more thing we want to make sure we close the loop on. Okay. So let me stop there just to see if there's any questions, and if I missed anything, anyone else, Mariah, Rebecca, Jeff, anyone else, feel free to kind of speak up and chime in, but let me just pause here to see if there's any questions. Okay, if not, I think this would be one of the shorter kind of sessions that we'll have collectively. We're probably going to spend most of this meeting in our breakout. So Tish, I'm going to hand the virtual mic over to you to kind of walk us through what we need to do to get broken out correctly in each of these committees. So floor is yours.
Okay. Thanks, Doug. So in the participant on the right side, if you click on, it says mute and it says more. If you right click on that or left click on that, it should say rename, and we're asking folks to put the number of the committee that they're in with their name. So that way we can separate people into breakout groups easy. So, so if you can do that, and we'll start breaking out, we'll start the breakout groups. So I'm seeing mostly everyone has done that. So thank you. Okay.
Those of us who haven't, where do we click? Say that again.
So are you, okay, so you should see a list, it says participants on the right side of your screen. Okay, so you click on, you'll see your name, and then you see mute and more. You click on more, and then it should say rename. So you hover over your name. You see what I'm talking about? Okay, so yeah, you put your number of your committee and then your name. Okay, in the chat.
Tish, do you need the number to be first, or does it matter?
The number would be first, yes, preferably. So that way we can just start going into the groups.
And what are the committee numbers?
Yes. Oh, you need the committee numbers?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me pull up the.
I've got it if you want me to
I
tell.
can help you. Yeah, I can help you out, Tish.
Okay, yes, because some people need their committee numbers.
So that number 1 committee is Tourism, Convention Center, Parks, Hotels, and Museums. Number 2 committee is Marketing and Communications. Number 3 committee is Events, Art, Music, and Sports. Number 4, Commercial Occupiers, Office Tenants, and Commercial Businesses. Number 5, Residential Occupiers, Residents. And number 6, Small Businesses.
Hey, y'all, this is Chantrice. I'm not sure which one I was assigned to out of that list.
Chantrice, I think you're number 4.
Thank you.
Commercial occupiers. Yep.
Okay.
Carl, do you need help?
Yeah, I'm a slow learner.
Do you know your committee number? Oh, you got it.
I'm one of 10 kids. My dad used to say I was always the last one to get it.
Has to be last. It's all right. All right, so I guess, Tish, when you assign us, we're all going to be in cyberspace for a little bit before we land somewhere.
So a quick question. Hi, this is Ann with Louisville Slugger. I might be missing Cleo, but if your committee leader is not here, what are the goals you want us to try to accomplish today?
If your committee leader is not here, there should be a staff person that was assigned to your committee. Let me check and see who
I
that
think
is.
that was April.
Okay.
I
Let's
didn't
see.
see her either, but maybe she's here.
Okay, we'll see if she's here, and if not, I'll pop in your committee and make sure there's someone facilitating.
Thanks.
Yep, thanks, Andrea, and I can certainly play that role as well if we need to, but I'm sure Andrea will do a much better job than me.
I have a quick question. I think I might have joined the wrong committee. I signed up for either the exhibits or the marketing communication. If Letitia is the person who communicated with me, is she my leader and that's my committee?
Not necessarily.
Okay. All right. Then I'll just stick where I am.
Andy, I think I saw you. You're in the right one.
You're in the
In
right
one?
committee, Andy.
Okay,
You're in the right
great.
one.
Thank you.
All right, I think we're good. David, who's David's iPhone? They're the only one without a number. So whenever you all are ready, I can open the rooms. Everyone's been assigned so far with the number.
Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and do it.
Okay.
Hi, you all. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Looks like technology worked in our favor that time.
Yeah. Did anyone else have a problem with Zoom logging in, or? Because I definitely did.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, Zoom gives me trouble every time I use it. I don't know why. So I want to go. I'm Gabrielle Gassaway. I am the chief of staff at the health department. I will go ahead and let y'all know that communications and marketing are not my thing. I am not trained in this. And so I'm here to facilitate and to take all of your ideas and put them down as you're having discussions, and to probe and ask questions and help drive discussion in that way. I'm, again, not a subject matter expert in this area. And then I know we have, is it Letitia, or do you prefer Tish?
Tish is fine too.
Okay. We have Tish as our staff person to sort of help us keep notes and probably keep track of time and all the other things. But I do want to go ahead and start our time out together by doing introductions. I don't think that I've formally met any of you. And so you heard about me. In addition to being at the health department, I am also a crazy person getting a PhD at U of L across at the School of Public Health. So yeah, I will just kind of go clockwise around my screen. Blair, you are the first person next to me, if you don't mind to go first.
Sure. So, hey guys, I'm Blair McBride. I'm the president of a company by the name of Block by Block, and we are located at 640 South 4th. So, to orientate you guys, does anybody ever eat at Saphir? We're like right across from Saphir. We're in the Bissig building. So, Block by Block, we are actually, if you guys know the ambassadors on the street in downtown Louisville for the downtown management district in the navy shirts, light blue shirts, those guys actually all work for us. We fell into this work in downtown Louisville 25 years ago and have expanded this. And now we have 3,000 ambassadors working in Louisville downtown, kind of similar organizations all over the country. So this is home for us. So we kind of wear two hats here, being people that know a lot of downtown operations and a lot of downtowns going through this. But at the same time, we're also neighbors too that are also looking out our window and excited to get things in a better place.
Awesome. Nice to meet you, Blair.
Thanks for having me.
Will, you next on my screen.
Hi, everyone. Will Ford, currently serving as a special assistant to the mayor. Also, at this time, doing some work in Louisville Forward Communications, helping out a colleague who's on maternity leave. So I'm kind of double dipping in a couple of places right now. So glad to be here, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Nice to have you here. Good to meet you. Christine.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Tarquinio. I'm Vice President of Talent, Workforce, and Brand Strategies at GLI, your Metro Chamber of Commerce. And prior to working at GLI, I worked for about 15 years in marketing and advertising.
Great to have your expertise on this team. Justin.
Hi, I'm Justin Slaw. I'm currently a law student at U of L. I am the current SBA president. I have worked with Black Lives Matters on initiatives. I've also worked with Legal Aid on a program called HEART, which is Housing Equality and Resource Task Force. I don't have a lot of marketing skills, but communication, I've had some experience in that, and digital and things like that on campaigns. So I look forward to working with you.
Awesome, thank you. And then Lorianne.
Hi, I'm Lorianne Roberts, and I'm the director for Main Street Association, and happy to be here. It will be interesting to see us all walking through marketing and communications together with our limited experiences.
And then Robbie.
Robbie, you're muted.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're talking, you're muted. Okay, maybe they stepped away. Letitia, would you like to introduce yourself formally?
Everybody, my name is Letitia Buckner. I also go by Tish. I am the economic development assistant. Prior to this, I do have some marketing communications experience working on campaigns. So hopefully my expertise will help us with this group. So thanks, y'all.
Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna share a document that we can walk together. In just a second. Thought I was preparing while everyone was talking, but apparently I'm not ready. Letitia, are you the host? Are you able to share the report out document? We can read through the charge. You're muted.
I can also make you the host as well, but I can share the document as well.
Either way, it just won't let me share.
Is anybody else yearning for the days where the worst thing that happened was you forgot your handouts? Because I'm certainly yearning for those days.
Yeah.
Okay, let me pull this up.
Hey, Rebecca, we're like a year into this thing and we're still like trying to like figure out how to not make it clunky, right? Like all of us. I mean, every call starts with this like paranoia of like, oh my God, is my slides going to work? Do I have internet? It's crazy.
Well, and the worst thing is, as she's trying to figure out how to pull this up, is like, I'm sure everybody else is like this. I have like 15 different formats I'm working on. So I keep disconnecting myself when I think I'm just muting because like, they're all the buttons are in different places. And I'm a little old lady and I don't see very well. And it is not very fun. And my home office was in my daughter's bedroom. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going to have to use my phone for all this stuff because nobody wants to see her giant giraffe.
All right.
All
So I just
right.
wanted-
What did I miss?
we did quick introductions, and actually, since you joined a little late, if you don't mind just giving us a brief little introduction, that would be great.
Okay. So my name is Rebecca Matheny. I'm the executive director of the Louisville Downtown Partnership. We're a business improvement district, and we take care of downtown with clean and safe services. And glad Blair's here. He helps us with those. And our ambassadors are out there, and their entire job is to make downtown experience better. But then we also, as an organization, run the Downtown Development Corporation, and our purpose is to support economic development and to make the quality of life for both people who live downtown, work downtown, and visit downtown better. So that's me.
Awesome. Thank you. Glad to have you on this committee. So I just wanted to share with you the committee charge. So we're meeting to focus on developing and promoting messaging that will encourage Louisvillians from across the county to return to downtown and attract potential visitors. So just building upon existing messaging and then finding new ways to spread positive and transformational messages about Louisville's recovery is what we've been asked to do. And then I guess a way to break that down into reasonably attainable chunks, we've been given some dates to create goals around. So we've got a 30-day date to create some SMART goals, a 60 to 90 day, and then a 120 plus date to think about what does this look like after July, moving into the future. So Letitia, could you scroll down just a little bit? So when thinking about creating these SMART goals, the parameters given here, obviously, this is not the only thing, I'm sure, but just thinking about time and talent, treasure and what data exists to help us meet the goals that we come up with. And then obviously thinking about DE&I within our goals. I don't know if all of you were at the training last week, but just being mindful of the racial equity toolkit steps that Kendall shared last week. And then a parking lot for like long-term high priority issues. One of those that comes to mind is like homelessness. I don't think we can solve that in 120 days. So just being mindful of those long-term issues as well. So I am also not originally from here. I've only been here a couple of years. I don't know a ton of the history of downtown or any marketing communications that has driven business in the downtown area. So I will lean on those of you who have been here and your expertise to kind of share what your ideas and thoughts are around building on current, past marketing of the downtown area. I was looking earlier that the downtown partnership earlier this year had the Downtown Strong campaign. I'm not sure if that's still going on, but just wanted to toss that out there.
Yeah, Downtown Strong is certainly going on still, and it will go on, you know, for as long as it needs to. And it was built on a partnership of our organization, tourism, GLI, and Metro, Louisville Forward we're all part of that sort of concept. It was all in kind, and we had a number of marketing and PR specialists donate their time, talents, et cetera, to developing that. We've gotten some criticism about it being something that I think I'm looking at Blair's ceiling right now. That it was something that was sort of already done, but that was very deliberate. That we used a message that came out of course, the Boston bombings, of Boston Strong, because it's something that a lot of communities have used, and people already know, you know, so they get it intuitively. GLI is following up probably, I think, within the next 3 or 4 weeks with a marketing campaign about that's very downtown centric, but also then involves the edge neighborhoods. And I'm not going to steal their thunder by saying what that is, because they're going to announce it themselves. But there's been a lot of work done in this area. And, you know, before that, we had downtown something different every day. And we've had a number of downtown marketing strategies. So I think that one of the things from my perspective about all of this, about not reinventing the wheel, is to try and figure out a way to message to as many audiences as can, because we've been, I think, very much leaders in, and as an industry, as Blair sits back down, God only knows what he was doing while he was away, I can guess.
I had my headphones on, so I heard everything.
All right. So, you know, they're in 105 different business improvement districts. I'm making that number up, but I think it's pretty close. You know, that we all are trying to make sure that our messaging is downtown is safe, downtown is clean. You need to come back to work downtown. You need to come back and visit downtown. So I don't think this is really rocket science. And the other thing that we've been really focused on with Downtown Strong, whether you like it or you don't like it, you know, is it's open source, so anybody can use it. You know, if you want to put it on your building, you can, blah, 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 blah. But we've also been very much in support of people, if they want to do their own downtown messaging, as long as it's positive, we don't care what it says. Like, we really don't. Like, we don't want just one message. We want lots of different messaging. And so perhaps what this organization needs to do is figure out, number one, how people can get to the open source, which is going to be us, and then follow up with GLI. But then also, if people want to make up their own messaging, which Whiskey Row has done, that's great. Always works better if your friends know what you're doing. And I've talked way too long, because I'm not in charge of this organization. I'm not in charge of this committee. But I mean, Blair, I don't know if you want to add anything to that about what people are doing nationally that's effective.
Yeah, I can do that. But Rebecca, I would say, you know, when I look at Downtown Strong, I think it's really good. I think people connect with it already. It sends a message. I think what I would think we're missing is people seeing other people being downtown. and that they're having fun and that they look like they're kind of back doing the stuff they did before the pandemic. And like, it looks pretty normal. Like, and I have not heard any feedback. I think we had a huge volleyball tournament in town over the weekend. Maybe you guys have. But if there is a way that, like, how do we get crowd shots of those full sidewalks with downtown strong? Like, you know, I think there's just a way of playing on the fear of missing out, right? And just like, how do we get other people to think, oh man, like, hey, you're back downtown. Other people are already back down there. They beat me to it. So that's one of the things that just keeps coming to me is, you know, and a lot of other districts are doing a lot of social media. They are trying to even incentivize people to come downtown, buying restaurant gift certificates. The downtown organizations are, and getting people to provide feedback. And then they're taking that feedback and trying to blow it up in an exponential way. And Jeremy Waldrop up in Pittsburgh comes to mind, Rebecca, that, you know, they spend a lot of time doing some grassroots stuff, but doing that just so that they can get the feedback and then blowing it up as far as like, hey, there are people down here having a good time. Come down too.
Blair, I really agree with that. As I was kind of preparing mentally for this meeting and what I could contribute or where the conversation would go, I had Rebecca's thought in the back of my mind going, I think maybe the obstacle, but also opportunity for this group here is media and marketing and communications was kind of one of the urgent, solvable kind of problems that many of the agencies already working on kind of put their dollars and thoughts into. So there's a lot of already ongoing efforts. What this group can be really good at is kind of those points you're making there is to kind of, you know, we got Main Street Association here, we got GLI, we've got, you know, the city, we got Louisville Downtown Partnership. What is it that these unique voices in this unique space kind of can come together? And I think the point that you just mentioned was something I have been thinking about is how do we show this effort in progress? Downtown Strong, it is a good message and I've enjoyed the graphics. I think taking it to the next level is showing Downtown Strong, the people on the streets. I was even thinking, you know, because of the whole unfortunate kind of perception as reality about downtown being dirty, we need to show downtown being cleaned up. Just this morning, I was in a meeting with Rob Lush, who I think is in another committee. He's our leader of the Metro Clean Collaborative, who I'm sure has been in communication with a couple of people on this call already, talking about how is it that we can physically clean up downtown and how can we market that being done, whether it's, you know, trash or whatever it might be, debris. How do we show people that there's care in the properties and in the right of way taking place?
So one thing you can do is there is a group, Downtown Louisville, on the Instagram. And if you go and look at them, a lot of their posts are static posts and a lot of them are self-submitted. And they have a clearinghouse that goes with that to make sure the pictures are appropriate. And you could encourage self-submission of people, not just places, which is not that difficult to do. We did this last summer with Louisville Tourism, and they were gracious enough to go out to a few of our locations along Main Street and get pictures of activities with people in them and post them through the Louisville Tourism website. The attractions have done this, and the attractions have done cross-promotional support with each other, whereas one day a week, they each supported a different location downtown and said, don't just come to us, go to them. So there's a lot of things that are in place. Robbie Valentine's group with the Downtown Lou Needs You campaign that they've been running for the March Madness, which we can't call it March Madness or because we don't want to get sued. But in meetings like this, we can call it March Madness. So they did some really good cross-promotional, which you saw immediate results on Whiskey Row this past weekend. Blair, you were asking how the things went with the volleyball tournament downtown. They, my friends on Whiskey Row said they had a great weekend. It was helped by the weather, not by the wind, but by the weather, but they had a great weekend. And I think we're seeing things pick up on the weekends, but we're not there on the weekdays. And that's where we're hurting right now.
If I can jump in for a second, I can kind of update everyone on the campaign that Rebecca Matheny mentioned. She's correct that it was a partnership between the Downtown Partnership, Tourism, Louisville Forward, Louisville Metro, and GLI. We're going to be launching in a couple of weeks, and we actually have a meeting coming up with Robbie and Todd to talk about incorporating our messages together. But our campaign is called Lou Needs You, and it is sort of a Humans of New York approach. So we're going and picking individual businesses in downtown and the adjoining areas. We wanted to be very intentional about making sure we went past the 9th Street divide. So we're including Russell, Portland, California, Smoketown, and then on the other side, Nulu and Butchertown as kind of our general downtown and adjacent areas. And we're going and featuring individual businesses with, you know, images of people in there, the food if it's a restaurant or business, you know, if it's a shop, or, you know, people actually out in those spaces, and then profiling each of those businesses, any additional information that may be related to COVID. Everything will drive to a page on our website, which is louneedsyou.com. So we will have a repository of content and information about businesses that are open and any restrictions or lack of restrictions or whatever the information is that we need to know. My personal hope would be that we could get some kind of a list of all of the other initiatives that are underway, so that we can make sure that we're citing everyone's hashtags in our content, and that we are able to post some of that information on the webpage.
So it sounds like GLI has essentially just completed our task for us. Wouldn't that be great?
It takes a village, but you know, I think that the other thing, I agree completely, Lorianne. But you know, I think that these individual kind of campaigns are equally as important, you know, and just that kind of constant positive drumbeat. And Blair, maybe you've seen this in other communities, but that constant positivity, like what the not March Madness, but just different businesses, you know, like having just real positive messages. You know, as part of Downtown Strong, I've been all over the media, like just sort of saying, you know, the number one thing we need to do in terms of communication is making sure that the entire community is being positive about downtown, and that it's not just about it's not about marketing certain businesses. It's about our community and making sure that everyone, downtown is for all. I mean, we've had that message for 10, 15 years. Downtown is for all, and how we make that message resonate in the community is very important to us as an organization.
Rebecca, I also wanted to add that we also had a meeting with the Fund for the Arts and about 70 of their cultural partners that are all wanting to participate in this campaign as well. And the idea is exactly, hopefully, what you just said will happen, that it's not just you know, us selecting a couple of businesses. That's not going to cut it. Everybody, we're creating and collecting all of the assets that any business, any person who's going downtown can share. So it'll have the same tag on it, it'll have the same hashtags on it, and we'll be able to track it because we'll be asking people to add hashtags. And once we get enough kind of critical mass of posting in there, it'll start to gain some momentum.
We've certainly found that with Downtown Strong, like it's been kind of crazy how much momentum. I mean, we have, I think at this point, probably $250,000 of in-kind, which is great. And I don't think people want to stop there. I think they want to adopt any positive message about downtown. Blair, what are you seeing? And I don't want to like co-opt this meeting because I really feel about that. But what do you see nationally people do that you think is most effective?
I think in the last 2 to 3 to 4 weeks, we've seen downtown organizations start digging in really, really hard on trying to get these office workers back. Because I think the thing that I keep coming back to is how do we stabilize downtown? And we're hearing the same thing. People are showing up, downtown on the weekends because they're still fun to be had. I know we try to hide from our kids at least once every 2 months and go downtown and hang out and stay overnight. So I think that business is kind of working its way back. I think where we're all nervous in the downtown world, and just as you are, is like, how do you keep those restaurants and eateries and places, how do you make them survive so that they're there for the weekend? They need the office worker during the week to survive to get to the weekend, which is like the icing on the cake. And we're actually doing just a connect and share event with all of our customers. I can send an invite out to this group. If I can get email addresses, I'll put it in the email. But we're actually having a couple of downtowns just jump on to talk about what they're doing and different approaches. That's downtown Long Beach, downtown Minneapolis, and not a customer, but downtown Denver is really working the policy side on trying to get people back into their offices. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot. And, that's the thing that, if there could be some kind of campaign just to the downtown businesses, and I know the guys on the other committee work on the office tower and the vacancy kind of stuff on the commercial side, they're probably, working on this. But, me as somebody that employs people, if you ask me that I need to provide lunch 3 days a week from a downtown office work, from a downtown, eatery, I'll do it. Trying to get everybody to play their part, kind of row in the same direction. I think that's the big thing. I think a lot of people are starting to really think about the downtown office worker.
Yeah, and Christine, I know GLI has been doing a lot of work on that. Thank you all so much. We've had a lot of conversations about that. And Christine's also in charge of talent attraction. So she has all the easy things to do with GLI. So she is, but I know GLI has been very focused along with us on exactly that, Blair, because I think you're right. If we don't figure out what to do with Class A, or if that committee doesn't figure out what to do with Class A, and we've had a lot of strategies, and obviously, through the International Downtown Association, all of our other downtowns, these are the same problems everybody's facing. And I think Blair would agree with that, and Christine would as well, because in our professional organizations, that's true. And, Lorianne knows this from Main Street Association. So, most of the folks that are on this committee know how hard people are working nationally to make downtowns work.
Rebecca, if I could ask, and apologize for my ignorance, but how much of the Downtown Strong campaign is physically seen outside of downtown, or say outside the Waterson, as we're appealing for disposable dollars from our own residents to come back downtown?
Yeah, that's a really bizarre, it's a good question, but it's a bizarre answer. And that is, we kind of don't know, because it has been open source. And so, because a lot of people have used it in different formats, but I've been on, I don't know, I want to say 25 to 30 television spots, which is, by the way, at 53, not something you want to do from Utah. It's just not very attractive. It's like, then you notice your chin. So I've been wearing a lot of turtlenecks. So there's been a lot of, but I've got a lot of feedback. And I'll tell a story about that that's not as positive here in a second. But we've had a lot of, there are a lot of billboards, but there's been a lot of print media as well. Courier Journal pull out. Business First is going to do a big thing on downtown that's kind of exciting. I don't know what the hell just happened there. And so, Will, I don't know how to count that because but I can ascertain him that question, because it's a really good question, right? And we want to tap into the entire market, but there's been a ton of TV coverage. Now, what I'll also say about that's been kind of interesting, that I want everybody on this committee to know, because it's very important, is that when I've been on TV talking about downtown's clean, downtown's safe, downtown's this, I have had some extraordinarily hostile feedback about why I'm lying to people. Generally speaking, these are people who've not been downtown in years. But, you know, when the cheerleader incident happened, and for those of you who are not aware of that, there was a cheerleader convention in town. There were a number of protesters who were in a caravan who just happened to end up in front of the kick. This was not a planned thing. And they attacked them and they used obscenities, they used this, they used that. And I had some extremely personal threats as a result of the fact that I was saying downtown was safe. And then these cheerleaders got, you know, cussed at and told they were white privileged drag queens. And I mean, it was just the language around it was really, really, really charged. Including my own daughter being threatened, who's 13. So, you know, there's been a very interesting feedback loop, Will, that I think is important for all of us to be aware of. And I've also gotten some very, very negative feedback from the African American community about how hostile downtown is to African Americans or people of color, which has personally been very difficult for me to handle, because that has been such a huge agenda item for us, again, for over a decade. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a mixed bag, you know, and it's hard to handle. And if you have any thoughts on that, because you are a brilliant communications person, I would love to know, you know, what you think or what anybody on this call thinks, you know, whether it's social media or what, how we can balance it, because downtown is for all. And we do not want anyone feeling unwelcome in downtown.
I think the anecdote you shared is, I've shared those experiences, you know, answering the phone in Metro Hall and, you know, getting yelled at about this anecdote that occurred. And I cannot fight somebody's anecdote. It's an experience that happened to them that I can't. I mean, I was telling them on the phone, you know, I come to the office. This was when I was going to the office a few weeks ago. Like, I come into the office every day. I haven't had any problems. You know, there's less and less people in Jefferson Square Park every day. There's really nobody there now. So that is the unfortunate part, is I can't fight an anecdote with an anecdote. So we kind of have to fight an anecdote with a trend or with a culture. So part of these marketing campaigns is reminding people and instilling that idea of a culture, because the more we can repeat that, the better of a chance they're willing to forget that anecdote or give us another chance or things like that. Because yes, there's certainly people that are going to be scarred by the unfortunate cheerleading incident. There's going to be people scarred, you know, unfortunately, by too many negative interactions with homeless individuals in our community. But we've got to keep, you know, positive and keep sharing anecdotes. And that's part of the reason why, you know, I was mentioning outside of downtown, is because, you know, the people that either live, work, or frequently patronize, you know, businesses in Nulu, Butchertown, Old Louisville and such, you know, those folks probably don't need to be convinced. They've put their eyes on downtown, whether it's in the distance or a drive through it. It's the people that don't ever get their eyes on downtown much at all, that I feel like that's the untapped area. Those are the people where maybe their trust with downtown was broken, or they felt like their safety was at issue. So we've got to reach those people.
That's a really good point. Well, so this is all really great, and I think we have a really good understanding of work that's already going on. And so instead of reinventing the wheel and focusing a whole lot on development of new messaging, how can we promote the existing work that's being done and coming out? And then also, how can we can't think of the word I'm trying to use, but like make it better, or like where are the gaps and how can we assist with addressing those gaps in the messaging that's already being worked on and that's out there. So Letitia, if you would just scroll down to the ideas box, I want to try to refocus and jot down some of these ideas. I got down a couple as you all were talking, just a little bit more to the other page. So we have this not so fancy box to fill in, but I think it will at least help us to jot down these ideas and think about what it will take action step wise. I don't remember who said what, but someone did mention the Downtown Louisville Instagram page. I think that was Lorianne who was talking about that and work that had been done with them, and possibly like encouraging more images of people engaging in activities downtown. I feel like that really hits on Blair and Will's point that we need more imagery and focus on the fact that like people are already back down here. And while we might be in like a new normal, like, hey, come on down and figure out what that new normal looks like. People are here and there's a good time to be had. So what are you all's feelings on like creating that or putting that down as one of our ideas and then writing out steps to work towards getting some of that imagery out there?
I can tell you, I'm very passionate about making it more visual, of seeing people having positive experiences downtown or spotlighting downtown businesses some way. So, you know, I guess we got to figure out the roadmap to how to get there, but I think that's important. And maybe I'm the only one.
I'd like to add that if you do this, you have to look at the audience and who you're targeting. So I didn't even know about the Downtown Louisville page, and I get on it. So there's a lot of posts, but there's very few people in any of the posts at all. To me, it seems like you're missing a cool factor, right? So like working in politics and digital marketing for those things, you want to seem cool or be cool. And who's your target audience here? I don't think we have one, but we need to actually identify one, because if it's all of Louisville, then it's never going to work, because all of Louisville can't unite in anything really. So you have to get a target. It's the truth, because we have it. That's why we're still working on the same issues. So we have to identify a target audience that we actually want to bring downtown so that they can make it cool. Once they make it cool, the other people will come. So you look at the families and older people, if you're marketing towards them, they're not going to spend a lot of time downtown anyway, except on the weekend, maybe. And that's early on the weekend because they have family and children and things like that. So they aren't going to be there very long. So when you're looking at the audience that you're trying to get down there, you have to invest more time in whichever group will be there the most. And I think it is young professionals, which we've already identified. And also, I think we're missing a gap with college students, because most of them are going out of town. They're not staying in Louisville because it's not cool. So how do we make it cool? And in making it cool, maybe this is my idea. So I said that to say this. Maybe we get some kind of like brand ambassadors like other companies do, because those are all over social media. We have cool people doing cool stuff and people flock to them. They have millions of followers and everyone's all over them because they're cool. So we need our cool thing. What makes downtown Louisville cool, or what people make it cool? And we need to get some of those people to kind of display that image. Cool people. I think that's what we need. So some kind of ambassador or ambassadors. That's it. Sorry, that was long.
Man, Justin, I actually agree with that. I've said the same thing. It's like we need to show people like out there having fun. It needs to be people that, you know, maybe there's people paid to show up and do a certain happy hour, you know, and they do that. And then all of a sudden they're also the same people that are welcoming people back. Like I've even said, like, it'd be nice to have a welcome back committee. Even if a firm puts 15 people in their office space, you know, that's on Instagram. Like, oh my gosh, like they're cool. They're back at work. Like they're not there with their kids. Like I would like to get away from my kids. That's probably a common theme on here for me. My kids are great, by the way. But it's just, you know, it's getting people to say, I want to be like that. So I totally dig what you're saying with the cool factor. But for me, downtown it really is everybody. I mean, we got to figure out how do we get that message to, you know, every part of the city. Because I think there's the remote office workers in every part of Louisville, West Louisville, East Louisville, South Louisville, that I think I'm just guessing, are hankering to come back. I think my guess is, and I don't know what you guys are hearing at GLI, but I'm guessing people have had their sort of snootful of this. I don't really know where work ends and where my personal life begins. And, you know, is that a thing, Christina, that you guys are hearing? There are people like, I'm kind of tired of it.
Yeah, I think there's definitely work from home malaise, although I do think that we'll be more of a hybrid format going forward. I wanted to let you know that we have Live in Lieu, which is our talent attraction and retention initiative. We have about 40,000 followers on our social channels, and that's going to be the primary vehicle that we're going to share the content from. We're also working with social media influencers, local social media, to develop and share content as a part of this campaign as well. So we are definitely trying to take the route of not just posting content, but getting other people to create their own custom content and post it with positive stories. We'll also have outdoor, we'll have digital media, we'll have a lot of other platforms communicating the same type of content in addition to social media.
I'd like to touch on another
So
point.
you guys are doing brand ambassadors? Sorry.
Go ahead. I was going to change the topic. Keep going.
Just as a follow-up to Christina.
Not officially, but we are identifying key influencers that we know have either a lot of followers locally or who are, mini celebrities, and asking them to post content and to share content. We'll also be going out and capturing content. So when we see, businesses that are full with people, we'll snap that picture and throw it up as well. So, and then anything that we don't generate that we see someone else is generating, we'll also be sharing on both GLI and Live and Lose channels. That's why
How do we pay those people, right? Isn't that a thing? Like paying people to endorse something?
Yes, a lot of influencers require payment. We don't have a ton here in Louisville that require payment. A lot of times they'll do it for swag, or if we promote them because we have, a fairly good sized audience, we're actually considered an influencer by definition. So.
But if like whatever their outing is paid for, if that's like a night at Ruby's and the drinks here, then if somebody pick up the tab on that, all we're asking.
Yeah, we do a lot of, like when restaurants ask us to come and profile them, they'll, pay for all of the food, we'll take the pictures, and they'll give a gift card. And then we'll use that gift card to get somebody else to do something. So no money's exchanging hands, but a lot of people do it for stuff like this, like our Live and Lou swag, which I have a great picture of Will in a Live and Lou hat from Bourbon and Beyond last year or 2 years.
Oh, yes. That's right.
But yeah, so we share, we have our ways of getting people to do what we want them to do.
Yeah, I think we're all sort of in agreement, just seeing Rebecca's comment, like that's, and looking back to, what Justin said, like, I think we're all liking that. We just need to get people telling other people, and probably like the people that had bigger followings than at least me.
And speaking of people that are on social media a lot, I wanted to touch on Justin's thought of college students. I think a lot of times we frame, at least in the little forward world, the fact that downtown or downtown adjacent has so many educational institutions, JCTC, Spalding, Presentation Academy, U of L, very, very close by. And I would imagine, most of those students, just again, anecdotally, probably I don't see them or I don't see enthusiasm for downtown from a lot of those students. So I think that's an untapped market. I think that's an untapped market that goes to other places and tells people what they like and don't like. So I think the more we can look towards younger, the better we can recreate new so-called customers to the downtown, or new people who return to downtown. I think that would be very helpful. I think, Bellarmine does a good job at appealing to the Bardstown Road area. As a Bellarmine alum, I got a lot of that when I was on campus, because that's their kind of adjacent cultural place, I think downtown could do itself some good by certainly looking at U of L, Spalding, JCTC.
I think one of the things that you have to include as well are the formal media. So I was just glancing through, I forget which one I was looking at, Twitter. And WHAS just released a Twitter from Doug Profit saying the boards are coming down on many businesses that we haven't seen open. And those are types of things that if we can capitalize on when they do reports, it will stand us in good stead. Another thing that goes back to your, Gabrielle, to the steps that we need to implement, the cultural pass will be picking up again this summer, which will bring a lot of families to the attractions, not just down on Main Street or here and there, but also some of the side, I forget the term I'm trying to say, I'm sorry, COVID brain. The side groups that have places that you can come visit as well. So we need to make sure that we bleed out to all areas, not just making sure that the messaging is consistent.
I know this was really great conversation, you all. I think we have until 4:30. I just have like sloppy notes written down. This is not organized in any way yet. But just depending on how you all are feeling about this last 28 minutes, we can continue talking and sharing ideas, or we can end early and I can organize these notes in this table to share with you all so that we can start thinking about these, how we're going to create SMART goals around the time frames that we've been given, and the ideas that we've come up with here today. I do think that it's great that so much of this work is kind of already being done. So we're not having to focus on developing new material. It's more of like, how do we tweak the material to fit a certain audience, or how do we reach their audience more appropriately? So I will leave that up to you all. Again, I'm just here to facilitate and probe and ask questions. I am happy to stay here with you for 27 minutes and continue having conversation. Or we can adjourn and I can organize these thoughts and get them back to you, probably not until sometime tomorrow morning.
Gabrielle, I wanted to ask a question. If there's one thing I learned from last week's equity training, it's that we must be intentional about DE&I, and in that spirit, I wanted to intentionally ask the question, I think, because we've kind of touched on it here and there, and there's a lot of, again, ongoing efforts taking place, but I just wanted to put that lens on this conversation, making sure that it's not, since it's our first meeting, and if we start with some SMART goal steps on D&I at the first meeting, we'll certainly have a measurable goal to follow up with them. Is there something attainable, measurable that this group maybe new can do, or we could put the weight behind our various circles on things that are already being done? Not an expert on the topic, but wanted to just put the conversation out there.
I'm going to add here that I think that one of the things that needs to happen out of this events and marketing committee is a balancing of, I don't even know how to put this quite, but I'm going to put it as economic expectation. And so a lot of economic development focuses on getting the next big thing, right? And the next Starbucks, and the next this, without realizing that our entire community, you know, in most 75 to 80% of the retail businesses that are downtown are Black serving businesses or Black owned businesses.
And they tend to be perceived as economically less impactful. And number one, I don't agree with that. But I think that we need to do some work in marketing and et cetera, about balancing opportunities for all of our communities to participate in downtown. So you don't need to sell a $9 cup of coffee. You know, it's fine to sell, you know, $1.50 pair of pantyhose. And, you know, all of these things are important. And there's communities serving retail. And when people mock the wig shops, it pisses me off. I'm sorry to use brash language, although I think everybody in this group knows me and knows that I do that all the time. Because the wig shops are as balancing an economic development tool as any upscale retail. And they are important. And I think that we have missed with downtown that people really want things in our downtown that make us like other places. And I think that serving diverse communities, socioeconomically diverse communities, I don't mean that from just a race point of view, but very much socioeconomically diverse communities is something that balances overall our entire economic well-being, and that we need to start looking at that as a positive and not wanting, you know, I remember like somebody saying to me, well, we've got this CVS on the corner. I wish we had a Dwayne Reed. It's like, well, Dwayne Reed is Walmart. You know, like, I mean, they're the same chain. Like, it doesn't, I mean, they're all the exact same thing. You know, what your perception is of what you want your downtown to be needs to have opportunities for everybody in the community. And that's something that I feel very strongly about, and why I will chain myself to the door of a wig shop any day now, like if somebody tries to close it, because those businesses have sustained 4th Street like no other businesses have. And I don't like people dissing them. So I think that when we look at economic development and marketing of downtown and who we're marketing to Will's point, it can't just be people who live in fake downtown Norton Commons. It's got to be people who live all over our community in the South End, the West End, you know, it's got to be people who live all over, who have lots of different economic means. And that's the only way we get through tough times, really, truly, is to have a balanced economy.
Hey, Rebecca, just being in this downtown space with you, it's always bewildered me why none of the downtowns that we work in, and you know, you and I see the same ones, how come none of them have went out on a crusade to go out and say, let me take the best business out of the West End and try to encourage them and incentivize them and beg them and plead with them, open up an extension downtown. We want you downtown. You know, why hasn't anybody asked the Vietnam Kitchen to open up a second location in downtown? You know, those are, you know, you're not reinventing the wheel. It's you're taking somebody that's already successful, a well-known brand that's already authentic. And to me, that's extremely intentional.
I have cried over that with Vietnam Kitchen in particular.
What about it?
Well, that they don't have their hot and sour soup like right a block away from me.
And if we made it so easy for them to, you know, open up a location in downtown Louisville, then the next line of progression is, how do we get you to become a downtown property owner? Because becoming a property owner builds wealth, which really fixes everything societally we need to fix.
I completely agree with that. And just so everybody on this call knows, in terms of marketing and PR, Blair just brought up a really important point. So, you know, one of the ways that we're funded is through ratepayers. So we know every property owner downtown And as we've been trying to balance property ownership, or property representation, excuse me, in our board, there are like 2 Black-owned businesses downtown. In the
Black-owned
business,
properties or businesses?
Black-owned properties. And most of the Black servicing businesses are not Black-owned. So we're working very hard on that. And I think that that should be something new that we add to our marketing and PR to really try and encourage diversity of business. And that doesn't mean just Black-owned. And honest to God, Blair, if you get Vietnam Kitchen to open downtown, I'd slip you
Put them at
$20.
Arby's. Put them at the old Arby's. That old Arby's is like the biggest opportunity for somebody.
Yeah.
Within Liberty.
Yeah, there are a lot of good kitchen spaces, you know, that that we could do. And so maybe the marketing and PR thing about this group, and I just thought of this, so I apologize that I've talked so much today, but maybe one of our objectives becomes in marketing and PR, how to introduce other more diverse businesses to downtown spaces, because we're happy to help with that.
I'd like to second Rebecca's comment about, you know, downtown not being, or downtown being the place where you find exclusively whatever $10 cups of coffee and such. I think a lot of the people say, oh, I don't want to go downtown. I can't necessarily get a cheap meal there, because I think it's that's another perception reality thing. Because while it may not be true, those are, and sometimes by honestly physical large presence, but also reputation, that's what I mean, you look at 4th Street Live, you can look at Omni, you look at some of the things that have been built, it just seems like it's for rich people or people with enough disposable income that they don't care, you know, what the bottom of their tab looks like at the end of the night. I mean, that's again, a perception versus reality. As much as I do believe one of the most charming and diverse places in downtown being 4th Street, right outside 4th Street Live and all the way to Broadway, that's one of the things that downtown should be known for. But sometimes because it just simply doesn't attract the most people or has the brightest lights, it just simply doesn't get that same chance that the rest of them do. So I think if there's one thing, to Rebecca's point, that we can do in addition, is also help downtown, not to the point of making downtown for everybody, making it for all economically scaled people, all different levels of the socioeconomic class.
I agree. Thank you, Rebecca, for bringing that up, because as Will said, that definitely contributes to that perception or the feeling that like I don't belong down here, because the only thing that's offered is like an $8 latte, and that's not something I like, but also I can't afford it. And so I thank both of you for bringing that up. I think it's really important, and I think that is one of those things that maybe isn't being addressed that this committee can be more intentional about addressing. So I will jot that down as one of our ideas to create some steps to implement and measurable activities for. Any other comments, any other ideas we want to put out in the forefront?
Yeah, and I'm sorry for talking too much too, but I do have one last thing that I look at as marketing as the packaging for a lot of the other work that's going to go on by the other committees. And so, I mean, you know, what was shared by Christine, like about what GLI is already doing for their messaging. I think it's important for other committees to hear that, to understand that like this is the vehicle that you can latch on to. Don't necessarily like replicate that. So some way, if we can, you know, even a function of this committee is explaining what other marketing channels are available. We don't have to invent it. I think we just have to connect people with it.
That's a really good point. Thank you for that. And I will say that part of this document's existence is that I will be sharing a report out with the steering committee when we meet on the off weeks of this group. And so that'll be a space for some of that to be shared. Not that I don't think there are other ways that we can do that, but that can be a primary way that information from this group is shared with the other groups.
Christine said in the chat, it's already done and it'll be done on Monday and anybody can latch onto it.
But it'll be done by the end of the month, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, I'm gonna give y'all back a few minutes of your day. I have a puppy crying in the other room, and so I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna wrap up our conversation so I can let her out.
Okay, you
This
just have
is
to
really
tell,
great.
you have to tell everybody what kind of puppy.
She's a mini schnoodle. I will try to bring her to the next meeting, but she was napping. So I just left her be, but she's a mini schnoodle. She's 15 weeks now and she's really cute. Everyone loves her. So I'll definitely have to show her off at the next committee meeting.
I think it's great. Our committee already has a mascot. That's awesome.
That's great. Even though I don't know what a schnoodle is, but
Yeah,
I think I ate it in
Schnauzer
Germany.
mini poodle mix.
Oh, I was really thinking it was a German food.
No. All right, so I will get these notes organized into this report out form. I will share them with you all, and in that email, I will ask, I'll let you think about it. I will share now. If you'd like to meet on the off weeks, I know they have us scheduled for every other week right now, and that's fine. But if you all feel like we need to meet every week, that is something that I can make happen. It might not be on the same day at the same time, but just think about that and let me know in response to the notes from today. And then obviously, if there are any other ideas that pop in your head, just, shoot them out in an email and I'll jot them down and we can discuss next time.
Okay, if we can meet all the time and not have to do our other jobs, I vote that.
Man, if I could make that happen.
And I want to meet Lori Ann Space. What is that, a pinball machine behind you?
Yes. So you have to understand we have 4 boys. They're all grown now, but this is their playroom. And if I turn my camera over, you can see my husband's bourbon bar. And it just has made a great hiding spot for me to get away from everything else. Rebecca has her daughter's room. I've got this huge basement. So I also, Gabrielle, have a dog that it is her 12th birthday today. So see what you have to look forward to. Yeah. But I do think that the #1 goal that we should put up there is what Justin said: see cool or be cool. That was one of my big takeaways from the meeting today.
Agree.
And incorporate families and pictures of folks into whatever messaging we get out there.
I like that as an overarching thing. Be cool. Sounds less desperate than some of, other things.
No, I like that. I feel like that's like our theme for this whole group. So yes, thank you, Justin, for giving us a theme to really hone in on.
Not very cool, but
I
I've
don't
seen
know.
good people.
You don't say much, but what you do matters. That's the most important thing. I talk a lot, nobody cares. So,
no,
right.
It was
Thanks,
like
Justin.
something drive the conversation. So no one talked too much. There was just the right amount from everyone. All right. Well, thank you all. I will send out these notes. It was good to meet you and see some faces, and we will connect in a couple of weeks, if not next week.
Great. Thanks,
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for moderating, Gabrielle. See ya.
Have a good day.